The steelworks is just a memory now. For 84 years, the range of products made here included almost anything that could be made from steel. This is the story of one of those products, Skelp. In 2002, the Skelp mill building was demolished as part of the clearing of the entire steelworks site in preparation for the remediation and reuse of the land. From the time the steelworks commenced in March 1915, the plan called for continuing expansion to produce a wide range of products, including pipes and tubes. At this time, all steel pipes were imported into Australia, as there was no facility to make the thin, flat strips of steel called Skelp that were needed to make pipes. The new steelworks concentrated on making rails, a product in demand both in Australia and in France during the First World War. Soon the plant was producing munition steel, plates and structural sections. Following the war, the demand for a higher range of products resulted in construction of the 18-inch continuous mill in 1924. To enable the steelworks to grow, a plan was implemented to encourage downstream users of steel to establish manufacturing plants on land adjacent to the steelworks. Stewarts and Lloyds of England decided in 1929 to establish a jointly owned plant with BHP to produce Australia's first continuously welded pipes and tubes. But due to the Great Depression, construction was delayed until 1933. At the same time, BHP constructed a new 10-inch mill to produce rods, bars and Skelp. Following the Second World War, a shortage of all products, particularly steel, resulted in rapid growth at the steelworks. In February 1958, the 18-inch continuous strip and Skelp mill was commissioned. Most of the mill's production was railed to Stewarts and Lloyds for manufacture of continuously welded pipes and to the cold rolling mill for cold rolled strip. Trevor Goodwin was the first superintendent.
I was seconded to go to the new Skelp mill before Christmas, and that was some 2 to 2.5 months before it started operation. So I was at the Skelp mill, the new Skelp mill, from just prior to its starting operations until I retired by choice on the 13th of July 1981, after being at the Skelp mill as superintendent for some 23 years.
Trevor explains the rolling mill process.
Once a slab is ordered and rolled in the bloom mill and then eventually charged into the Skelp mill furnace, it then initially was pushed from the furnace at a rolling temperature and progressed through 5 horizontal roughing stands and 3 vertical edging stands to a drop loop table, of course, which carried it across to the finishing train and then opened and allowed a tension control between the roughing stands and the finishing stands. Tensions between stands and the roughing mill were controlled by speed from the main pulpit, as each stand had its own individual drive, and by watching meters, the operator would learn to determine whether there was too much pull in between stands. In the finishing train, of course, there were 5 horizontals and 2 vertical edges, the edges only being used for Skelp to put a nominal beveled or square edge on the edge of the Skelp for CW pipe processing. In between the stands, of course, they have a looping table, an up looping table, operated by an air cylinder, either manually or automatically. And of course, after it progressed through the various all the mill stands, of course then on horizontal, It was then twisted the vertical, twist off, went to a set of pinch rolls with a changeover head on them, which would select which of the two outlet tables and coilers that particular bar would go to. And of course that was automatic. As soon as the tail end of one bar would leave, it would switch over and put the next bar on the other table unless it was cancelled manually. It was then snaked onto an open conveyor with a vibrating head and then passed in through a set of pinch rolls to a set of crop shears. He cropped the front end. He would then progress the front end of the coilers, and then after the strip or scalp had been coiled, he would slow down the coilers with pedals and crop the back end of the bar and then complete the coiling operation. After the coiler centre was retracted, the push-out arm would push the coils onto a chain conveyor, and it would progress so many feet and then stop and wait for the next coil to be pushed on. Ultimately, the coils would get to the top of this chain conveyor and then progress to a continuously driven roller, inclined roller conveyor, which would slowly take the coils up to the top of the incline. Then they would gravitate round the horseshoe bend down to the tying station, where the coils would be stopped by a series of brakes on some rolls, and they would be tied mainly with wire. They would release those coils. They'd then roll down further out under the crane, where magnets would lift them off for either storage or directly onto trucks.
During the 1980s, the introduction of new pipe-making technology at tube makers and wide hot strip production at Port Kembla made the product called Skelp redundant. After 32 years and just under 9.5 million tonnes of production, past and present employees gathered to watch the final bar pass through the mill at 3 p.m. on Friday, 9th of March 1990. It's quiet now, abandoned, soon to be demolished. But because of its contribution to the company, the community, and the development of Australia, the memory of the Skelp mill lives forever.